Happy 4th of July weekend! Here at Different Spirits, we are going to celebrate this particular reason to go out and grill, unlike all the others, with our nation's native spirit, namely apple brandy. Apple brandy, the first recorded distillation in the colonies, was apple brandy. The first distilling license was given to Laird's, an apple brandy distiller, well, Applejack distiller, in New Jersey. No, all of this happened well before charring barrels, the inside of barrels was really a thing. So the next time someone talks to you about bourbon being, America's native spirit or whatever, not so much. You can also make a case for rum, of course, but that kind of ended after we left the whole, British colonial system. All right, so I'm going to do 6 apple brandy reviews over the next 2 videos. 6 reviews. Who else out there for this holiday weekend is doing 6 reviews? As a matter of fact, I don't talk a whole lot about my Patreon, but let me make a modest point. If you are already giving your money to video producers who are not doing 3, 4, 5, 6 reviews in the course of a week, consider your values and what you're spending your money on. Anyways, sorry. Apple brandy. I love apple brandy. We've got some Laird's coming up in the next video, but this time around we're going to be exploring some other brands. We have got Josiah Bartlett from Flag Hill in New Hampshire. This is a new one for me. Dampfwerk, they do a lot of stuff. These are Minnesota folks. And this is a sourced offering, Arkansas Black, 21-year-old. This one came out a couple of years ago, but I couldn't resist breaking the sample. So these are all the kind of lower proof offerings. It'll get stronger from here. And I am going to... Well, first I'm going to get my dropper. Hold on. I'm only going to do one pass with these guys. I did an experiment when doing my notes, and none of these really benefited from a second pass through. Okay, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do 6 drops. And that one. Okay. All right, let's get this started. Flag Hill Distillery in New Hampshire. I think Lee, New Hampshire, if I remember correctly. 6-year-old apple brandy. This is probably bottled around 2020 or so. Bottled at 40%, which is annoying, but, we're going to roll with it. Let's see what we got on the nose. This is their own distillate, which is always nice. I mean, it's very fresh. It's very appley. I could not figure out what kind of oak they were using in this, but I would guess there's a fair mixture of just, American white oak going into this. It's relatively simple, but also very clean. Apple cobbler is right up front. Cinnamon. Quite a lot of white pepper. There is a little bit of a floral note, like a touch of dried flowers in there. So we're not going full on like old school post-war cologne like some of the Laird's can do, but there is that little floral note that apple brandy can sometimes throw at you. Chai, masala chai. So kind of getting that touch of lactic, cardamom-y, gingery stuff. Vanilla bean. Not a whole lot of like ashy charred notes. It's much more, spicy apple cobblery kind of stuff. That's really about all. It's a nice nose. It's pretty darn simple. That's not a bad thing. Let's see what happens on the palate. The reason why I added 2 drops of water to this rather than just doing it neat, which is what I would normally do at something at 40%, is it does improve with mouthfeel. Not substantially, a fair bit though. I guess fair bit is what substantial means actually. It's a very decent mouthfeel for something bottled at 40%. This does become a little bit of a race if you add water to this, because if you leave this sitting for a while, it does kind of start to collapse a little bit. But initially, I think the improvement in just how this acts in the mouth is worth going on that race. In terms of notes, mostly follows the nose. So apple pie, like a spice cider, cinnamon spice cider. Very gingery. And I don't think it's from the oak. I think it's actually just from the distillate. Ginger snaps. Molasses cookies too. So there's lots of like cookie stuff going on. White pepper. Little hints of like lime zest and that floral thing. Again, we're not getting into old man cologne. This is flowers. It's holding its age well. It's very balanced. Would I appreciate this being bottled at 43%, 45, 50%? Oh my God, absolutely. I would love that. It does feel a little bit clipped. And like I said, if you leave this sitting around, like it will start to get kind of thin and a little acrid if you've added water. But this is really pretty solid. I'm going to give this 81 points. A slight up in the strength would put this, into the mid 80s easily, I feel. Very nice, clean, delicious, good stuff. Moving on to the Dampfwerk Barreled Apple Brandy. This really kind of, the presentation on this is very ornate. It's a half bottle. This was on the closeout rack at the local Binny's. There's a long write-up, which means very little, but basically what you're getting here is Minnesota-grown apples, distilled in, well, they're not telling you what kind of, it's a copper still. They're not telling you what kind of copper still this is. Oh, the Flag Hill is a hybrid still. So I don't mean like, so it's a pot still with a little hybrid-y column on the top. Lightly aged in French oak. That is important. Okay, Minnesota, bottled circa 2019, I guess, 43%. 43 is better than 40. So there's things happening on the nose, but the apple part of it is actually surprisingly, reduced, quiet. It's quite spicy, actually. There's loads of black pepper, clove, cinnamon stick. The apple is there. It's more kind of along the sides in the background, next to notes I'm guessing are coming from the oak. It's more of like an apple tea sort of note than like a cider note or a pie note. You know those little tea bags with the little appley bits in you know what I'm talking about? That's kind of what this smells like. It's more spices than apple. Like it's like, hello. There's some kind of like dry dirt in there too, like some loamy sort of dirt. Okay. On the palate, here we go. Kind of the same story. Very spice driven. The apple is weirdly quiet. I will give you my theory about what's happening here. So I will. I'm still coming up with terminology to talk about this, but there is an assumption that when you put a spirit into an oak barrel or any sort of barrel to age, it will immediately kind of gain in complexity. And in my experience, that's not what happens. It's much more of like an initial, like, if you can imagine like a run chart of complexity. Stuff comes off the still pretty darn complex. There's lots of little, nubs and crannies of flavor and complexity in there. And then you throw it in a barrel initially, it actually kind of dips. And if you hold it in there for longer, it kind of pulls itself out of the ditch. And the spirit reasserts itself. It doesn't reassert itself by just tasting like fresh distillate again. It comes back in what us wine nerds would call tertiary notes. So the notes that are coming from some kind of synthesis of the cask and the spirit, but also at the same time neither one. It's just from the aging process. And if you kind of leave it in there long enough, it'll get more and more complex. That's what I'm saying. This feels like it was bottled right in the middle of the ditch. So I'm getting a lot of those secondary notes, lots of oakiness, lots of spice. But yeah, the apple just hasn't started to come back yet. Again, additional oak flavors is not the only component of aging. Sometimes aging longer means you get more spirit in there. I know that sounds weird, but that's kind of what happens. Sorry, I'll get some notes on the table with this. Very spicy. Clove, allspice, cinnamon, black pepper. Lots and lots of black pepper. That kind of old cologne thing I mentioned as not being in the Josiah Bartlett, it's kind of in play here. There's a little bit of like dessert apple too, some like, I don't know, Fiji apple, Gala apple, those really high sugar apples. They're kind of in play here, behind the spice. I know I feel like I'm trashing on this. I actually feel like this holds together a little bit better than the Flag Hill one. That's just a symptom of the higher proof. I think if these were boxing on a even level, this would actually be better. But at the moment, I'm going to give the Dampfwerk here 82 points. Yeah, this is a case where I don't remember how much this cost. Almost certainly too much. This is a case where I would actually buy the unaged option. Like if you see this on the shelf next to the unaged one, buy the unaged one, because like if you see a much, much, much older version of this with a couple of years on it, that's probably worth a grab, but not, I would say this, not so much. I could see this being a year old. I can't see it being 2 years old. It feels like, and it just feels like it's in an awkward place right now. I don't know, 82 points. All right, but I will be honest with you, this entire video is about giving me an excuse to try this. Arkansas Black 21-year-old Applejack. So Arkansas Black will sell you their own apple brandy, or at least they used to. I don't know if they're even still around, But basically, it's Clear Creek sourced apple brandy. That's their normal stuff. This is not that. This is not from Oregon. It's from California. They sourced this apparently from a family brandy producer who just distilled a whole heck of a lot of apple brandy in the early 90s. Threw it into some French oak casks and then kind of forgot about it. Never really had a plan for what to do with it. But here it is. They bottled, Arkansas Black bottled this circa 2015, maybe 2016, at 46%. A couple of hundred cases of this, and then it's all gone. So this is a little bit of an indulgence for me because the chances you can still get this are thin, but we shall see. Let's see if I would even want to have it. I mean, this is just a different league from the previous two. And I'm not against these two. Like, I was kind of okay with these. This is just better. At least on the nose. And funkier. So I'm getting like apples that have been cooked and stewed with like mud and mushrooms. There is a musty character on this. Oh yeah. And it's different kinds of apple too. It's like fresh cider apple, but also like apple cheese. I've talked about apple cheese before. It's a Lithuanian, or rather kind of Baltic dessert, boiled down apples that is basically turned into a toffee. And it sounds silly. Go try it. It's delicious, and you'll find it all over the place in tasting notes. Particularly lightly sherried Speyside whiskeys. Apple cheese is all over the place. I'm telling you. And it is in play here. There's also some other dried fruits happening. I'm guessing that's just the French oak. Figs, prunes, dried cherries. There's also some spiciness, cinnamon, white pepper. In some ways, this reminds me. I know this isn't made at Clear Creek, but it reminds me of that Clear Creek apple brandy I reviewed a year or two ago. It actually has a similar note of pee-pee. There's a little bit of pee-pee in this. But it's not bad. And if you kind of pay attention, it becomes almost more of like a sea salt sort of note. This all sounds very weird. I'm sorry I even brought this up. It's really, really nice. It's minerally and musty and weird. Umeboshi. There is an umeboshi note on this, like pickled plum. Oh, this is a good nose. Okay, on the palate, here we go. You don't want to talk about tertiary notes? This has got tertiary notes. This is, I don't know where half of these notes are coming from, but man, I like them. On the palate. Ripping. So tons of oak. Tons. If you do not like oak, stay away from this. Long, drying wood tannin finish, but nice. It's just really beautiful, actually. It's it feels musty and old, but there's a little bit of like that, malic sour kind of character in this, which makes it a little bit like thirst quenching at the same time. This would be a killer like session dram, honestly. Oh, yeah, apple cheese, but also like, what is that? There's almost, yeah, there's a salty note to this. Like there is like so think like, I don't even know, like a salt pickled apple. If you could make it like an apple that's been pickled with like lots of salt, that's kind of happening. Don't know if that exists. I just invented that. Lots of cinnamon, lots of pepper, some clove. But then again, that kind of damp cellar mushroomy thing is also in play. It's that combination of like mustiness, a little bit of cologne happening again, that like almost pickly salty thing. It's not, I don't think this is a great brandy per se. It's not great, but this is incredibly crushable. Like if I could, if I could buy this now, I absolutely would. And even at my pace of finishing bottles, which is pretty darn slow, I don't think this would last long. It is just compulsively drinkable. Wow. Yeah, really, 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 really good. And one of the best session spirits I've had in a long time. 88 points, but that score, even that, does not kind of capture just how much I want to continue drinking this. Like, I have to record the video for the next brandies, which are sitting over there, in a second. And I like those. I almost don't want to because I just want to just like finish drinking this, and then go see if anyone on the internet still has it, so I can buy a bottle. That's how much I like this. All right, so I guess that's the conclusion of this first video. Josiah Bartlett from Flag Hill, 6-year-old, 81 points. It's nice, it's clean. In terms of the techniques, I think I actually like it more than the Dampfwerk. It just needs more power. More power. Just 45%, guys. Even just 45% would be really, really good. Dampfwerk needs less age or more age, one or the other. But I don't hate it. It just feels like it's in a little bit of an awkward place. 82 points. And the Arkansas Black, 21. I love it. Wish I could get more of it. 88 points. Thanks for watching and cheers.